So what I'd like to do now is to introduce Mac from Huawei. He's very generously agreed to keep it down to 15 minutes. That's the clicker, yeah. Just give us a sec. So Mac's going to be presenting on building a service innovation ecosystem. Over to you, Mac.
Great. I'll use this one now. Hello. Thanks, Alan. So I'm going to keep this short. We overran a little bit, so 15 minutes, and I'll get through this. But basically what I wanted to do was to pull together the theme that I see emerging in this conference. Basically, Khalil this morning really came up with a very interesting insight into what is happening in the industry, and this was followed up with Amos with the idea of this open source kind of management stack, which has to be fundamentally different from existing telco. And then again, I think this has been repeated again through Troppo's presentation. So I'm going to speed up. So market changes and stuff, but this is critical, I think, and I have to bow to Alan's thought leadership on this. But essentially, look, commoditization of voice and messaging. We know this is happening. $100 billion in lost revenue is expected by 2020. ITization, IPization of telecoms cloud. So this is critical, and this is what Axiata was talking about this morning. This top right box here. Free and open source software. The days are gone when we can build complex software and sell that into telcos. It's now the web model has won, and that is the model we have to follow. Essentially also, in order to compete with the web, you need global scale. Local scale ain't going to cut it. So global scale is what's needed, and of course, as Troppo have just pointed out, agile and lean development is critical. So these are the key themes of what is affecting the industry and what we need to think about going forward. So new services are now critical. This is about service innovation. The TADS is about service innovation. So new services are critical. The web has won, frankly speaking. So let's copy what Amazon has done. And the challenge is, and we will address this today, I think, in workstream 1 that I'll be chairing around go-to-market. The challenge is, the web has won, how does telco adapt? And that's the big question mark. Cloud, global ecosystem, and from Huawei's perspective, in terms of the thought leadership here, what does Huawei bring to the party? We bring a global ecosystem, potentially. We are in every operator in the world, so we can enable this potential global cloud and global ecosystem of services to be delivered to operators, and we'll see how that works out. And so it's not just services and supporting infrastructure. The model breaks from breaking all operations, break free from legacy processes, legacy telecom processes. We've had discussions or references to the GSMA and the TMF and so on. So these are doing their part, but we really need to focus on the key and critical point. It's all about services. We know this slide, Analysis Mason, and this is the critical point as well, I think. In terms of what's happening to the industry in terms of disruption, 2000 to 2007, network operators were making all the money. 2007 to 2014, Apple's making all the money, right? Now, from 2014 to 2020, Apple will still be making money, but everybody else, in terms of handsets, will not be making money. So where is the opportunity? The opportunity is in services. And these are the web players. So operators have to compete on the service level. And this is just a simple analysis of the trends in the market. So where's the opportunity? In all of these different industry verticals, travel and tourism, health, energy, financial, real estate, insurance, all of these are also going digital, also need services that may use telecom capabilities. And so we need to look across all of this domain and understand that mobile is a $1.7 trillion industry. Tourism is a $6.7 trillion industry alone. So there is scope for services that make use of the needs and demands from these industries. So let's look at some real commercial services that are available today. Now, we've done some work with operators in the Middle East, and this is a 7 million subs operator, and we did an estimation of the revenue, because it's about revenue at the end of the day, the CFO will want to come into the room and understand where the opportunity is. And so if you look at all of these services, and the critical point here is it's not about APIs. It's not about platforms. It's not about any of this stuff. It's about real commercial services that are solving real business problems. And these are all services that have been deployed in the market solving business problems. And it's not developers necessarily, or anybody in a telco, who will work out what their business problem is. These are real people who are working in all these different industries who have business problems. So these are repeatable services that potentially could be the basis of service innovation in your market. And so we did an estimation of the revenue here. If you look at these, they're all small services, bit of a long tail, but $180 million a year in a 7 million subs operator is potentially what we're looking at. So different types of business models. Okay, so you've got the commoditization model, which is just basically reselling voice and messaging. This is the cloud-based communication stuff which has been pushed by Twilio and others. Essentially, you buy voice for X, you sell it for Y, you make a margin on the difference. But this is a commoditization model. It's going away. Voice and messaging will become cheaper and cheaper over time, so it doesn't work. So service innovation business models, there are lots of them. And this is what we'll talk about in Workstream 1 today, is how we go to market and how we work with people, and essentially flexibility. You have to be entrepreneurial when you're working with service providers. And there's professional services, revenue share, flat monthly fee for API usage, etc. Critical thing is, how do we build this new model, these new set of flexible business models that allow us to take advantage of this service innovation? Okay, so one example quickly. This is Click for Call. Very simple service. Why isn't every operator in the world already deploying this? Okay, so every website in an operator's enterprise market, potentially, let's say in a 7 million subs operator, about 20K businesses, you don't charge it on traffic. It's basically user acquisition play. So it models against what people pay for clicks on Google. So $54 for an insurance click gives us an idea of the scope of the revenue here. So if you look at a business model for user acquisition using a widget for call button on a website that goes directly through to the right person, it's, you could look at it, it's a $2 opportunity. So this means that 10 calls per day across 20K businesses is an $80 million a year business. Why aren't we doing it already? What are we waiting for? This is the key question. Okay, so how does the innovation ecosystem look in terms of the go-to-market piece? So we've got operators. Operators have the channel to market. They have local channels to market, but also by exposing APIs from the operator, the service providers themselves can go to market direct. And so there's a number of different ways and different business models that we can get these services to market. So let's look at some test cases here. What's the problem, and why isn't this stuff working already? So Khalil this morning talked about the rise of the machines. The rise of the machines means that we cannot do business as usual. The telecom box ain't going to cut it, okay? So this is a key problem. Trying to retrofit digital services into our existing IT, our existing BSS OSS, existing core network and so on is not working. And we need to think of a model, and I very much like what Axiata was talking about in terms of moving on with this open source thing. So this is critical to understand. And I don't know that everybody does yet, but it's obvious. The telecom business is optimized for voice, messaging, data, and selling phones. Everything inside that box is optimized for those four things. Digital services is a whole different story. So we kind of need to start again, and I think that's Khalil's key message from this morning. So this is the box, optimized for that, and this is the new one, services platform. The new telco opportunity is to build this ecosystem of services that they can bring to their local markets. And we can distinguish this from VAS, which is effectively dead, and connectivity, which is selling megabytes. So we need to have something radically different. So let's look at some real problems. Operator X, key pain points. I have talked, I'm sure many of us have talked to operators who have these kind of pain points, and again, Axiata brought it up. Internal processes and procedures, slow and bureaucratic. Before a service can launch, needs consultation with IT, OSS, BSS, core network, and other inside-the-box stakeholders. Because if you're in the box, your job, especially if you're CFO, your job is to say no to everything. Very easy to say no, right? So any purchase or capital expenditure needs an RFP, needs CFO approval, refusal by platforms and technology, but willing to work on flexible business models. So this is critical here. Flexible business models and revenue share will only invest in infrastructure when the service is successful. It becomes logical. We're not going to invest in a whole bunch of infrastructure if we cannot ensure that the service will make money. We know that voice messaging data makes money today. We know in the future it won't, but how are we going to deal with these problems? So again, another one. Integration inside the box is almost impossible. So we have great ideas for new digital services. Then we go along, talk to the IT guy, OSS, BSS guy. Sorry, it can't be done. It's going to mess up our existing network. So how do we get beyond this? I don't have the answers, but essentially, again, Axiata, I think, is on the right track. So, you know, people have spent millions on consultants, telling them how they're going to run their digital services business. Nothing works. Nothing has worked. So, first of all, fire the consultants. And really just have a conceptual framework to think about this thing. It's not logically impossible to understand that you don't use telecom BSS OSS to manage your digital services. So what are the core principles here? So what is Huawei's role? So Huawei, key goal is to make our customers competitive with web players. This is the critical thing. So we want our customers to become globally competitive in digital services and service innovation. And then telcos can focus on local go-to-market services. And this is a kind of conceptual model of what we're talking about. So essentially, operators globally, Huawei aggregation and operation. So what we're talking about here is putting together a stack in much the same way that Axiata was talking about. And very interesting that that's open source, because potentially we can collaborate. But essentially, there are specialist platform partners and existing services that I showed you in that slide previously. And these existing services and these existing platform partners can bring those services. It's not a matter of exposing APIs and sitting back and waiting for a developer to invent a service. No, they're already built. They're already ready to go. And what we need to do is to be able to plug these guys into a platform like this that plugs into operators. And then what do operators really have? They have the local go-to-market piece. Forget the technology. The go-to-market piece is really the critical thing. You have lots and lots of enterprises, lots and lots of small and medium enterprises that you can sell these services to. So aggregate global services that are already working, already proven, already commercial. So there's no testing, there's no phase. These services are working. We don't have to go through this whole testing phase and POC phase. No, look, it's working in this market. Bring it here and take it to your market. And so what we want is a plug-and-play piece that will make that happen. So, Huawei's hosting centers. So Huawei is starting in terms of aggregation and operation with hosting centers around the world, and our vision is to move into this kind of service innovation piece as well. At the moment, it's focused on existing services, but the vision is to move beyond that. So practical steps, I won't go into that, I'm running out of time. But these are the 5 key takeaways. These are critical to me. The opportunity is in market-proven commercial services. Okay? Number 1. Number 2, platforms, APIs, standards, developers, and ecosystems are distractions. We are not interested, we're interested in commercial services. There's loads of ways we can do this. We hear about developers on the web and how difficult it is to bring them into telecom and so on. Okay, fine, we understand that. So get away from the distraction. Focus on building an effective, independent, go-to-market team. And Workstream 1, we'll discuss more about this today. And then deliver innovative services to customers and build new revenue that way. Use hosting, well, hosting whatever, as a quick, low-cost way. So that's kind of Huawei's piece. But essentially, that is the key message. It's all about the services. It's all about proven commercial services ready to go today. Let's bring them from global sourcing to our local markets. And I think we're off and running. Thanks.
That was excellent, Mac, and spot on time. So Mac's leading Workstream 1, which will be up in Babylon 2, not Babylon 5. So that's up on the mezzanine floor. So just go up 2 levels, and it'll be obvious. It'll all be signposted.